What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. We are headed over to Kragen Automotive today, where we're picking up the 387 Ford stroker motor that we have been building here on the channel. Now, we've been waiting on some machine work to get finished, some clearancing things that we had talked about in other videos, but we'll get into that stuff when we get the block home and start assembling the short block, because I'm pretty sure at this point we're gonna just do the short block, get it all clearance, get everything all put together and assembled. Let's get over here, get it loaded up, and get back to the shop. I made it over here to Kragen Auto, where the block and the crank and pistons are at. You can see here we ended up only having to clearance this little area here for the rod bolt because we used the factory rod bolts. But here's the pistons in the box. We're about to load all this stuff up and go home and assemble the short block. All right, so we got pretty much everything loaded up here from Dave over at the machine shop. You guys can see we did the clearancing video with the harmonic balancer. This is where we had talked about earlier the clearancing of the rod bolt. Because you see in the short in the other video where we had the rod was coming around and touching the very tip of the...
That's just because it was a factory rod bolt. Any aftermarket rod would have cleared that fine.
When we're building this motor to be like budget as hell, and we used factory pistons, which you guys see in the box, and we used the Windsor rods, and we bought a cheap 385 crank. This isn't the right box, but I don't know, what would you do with the box?
I threw it away.
Why?
Because that's what I do. I throw shit away.
So we had the crank, the 385 crank, and where you're saving money is the fact that it's a roller block. So we can just put regular lifters in it, stock lifters, the B31 cam. We can save a lot of money and still have a stroker block, you know what I'm saying? Instead of going out and spending, you know, a bunch of money on rotating assembly, we figured we'd at least try this, you know what I mean? So I think we've done pretty successful here. We got all the parts we need here at the shop to get this block assembled. So it was like right here. So we literally took nothing out of that. Just enough to clearance.
Yeah, but you got to clearance every single one because they're all different.
Yeah. So you had to put it all together.
Yeah, it's just a pain.
Anything else besides being mad at this whole build? So here's the question. Here's the question.
The pistons made me mad. Everything else is fine.
But you save the boring, which is a ton of money.
No.
And you save the pistons. You save $800 there. $1,000.
No.
Because you would charge somebody $300 or $400 for boring, right? And then a forged set of pistons would be another $500. Hi guys, so we're on our way back from the machine shop. So we're gonna get back here to the shop and get the 387 up on the engine stand. We definitely got a whole bucket load of parts there that we got to get it installed. You know, pretty much the whole rotating assembly at this point. Get the camshaft in there and get it cleaned up. We're gonna have to deal with the timing chain gears. He was right. Yeah, he's got a heavy duty chain, so I'm gonna have to get some gears, I guess. I thought I had some laying around there at the shop, but might have to just keep it budget and run with the one we got. All right, guys, we made it back here to the shop, and I figured I would go through some of the stuff like we had just loaded up over at the machine shop and talk about a few things that maybe you didn't know maybe about the build and about the block. But all right, so for some of you guys that don't know, that are just joining the channel, this is the 387 build that we are doing here on the channel, and it is the F4 TE block. As you can see here, we put some new cam bearings in. We've already honed the cylinders out, which we got to kind of clean them up a little bit, and the block got new freeze plugs, and we've also had the block decked here on the surface. In order to make this 387 work, there was a couple things that I wanted to mention here in the channel. In a sense, folks, we are putting together a motor with car parts that probably should have never been put together. But considering the fact, this is budget and this is cheap, and these are practically free because these are the forged TRW 302 piston, we decided to build the 387 stroker. But one of the biggest issues that we had, since we used the factory piston, we had to clearance the skirt ever so little right here on each side so it didn't hit the counterbalance of the crankshaft. So we basically had to do that to all the pistons. But we used the actual windsor rods that came out of this block like we had been talking about here on the channel. Clearancing and mocking things up. The reason why we're doing this build is to give some sort of information out there on what has to be done to make it work. Like I had just mentioned, clearancing the skirt of the piston, because the skirt is a little bit longer than a stroker skirt would be, is kind of the pain in the ass. Including clearancing a block to clearance a rod bolt. Considering its budget, we still have to put the camshaft in there to make sure that it clearances the camshaft too, which I don't think it's going to be an issue considering that we're running with the B31 camshaft, which is only about a 540-ish lift camshaft. Let me go over some of the other stuff that we did just pick up. Now I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to, deter you from wanting to build this. Let's be honest, guys. It's probably the cheapest forged stroker that you could ever build. There are going to be things that are going to come up, like clearancing the block, like I talked about, clearancing the pistons, and the balancing of an aftermarket crank. I mean, you can see what we did here to the balancer. As I shown in one of my other shorts, he had to drill holes in the back of the crankshaft. There are some things machine-wise, if you guys have time to build this motor and you have the resources to build this motor, that's what's going to make it super budget-friendly. Where does this motor really save you a lot of money? Well, the reason why I pushed the roller block, the roller camshaft will go in with the lifters. If you've already got a 302 that you've built and you want to use the same camshaft, including the dog bone retainer, which is nice because this saves you about $600 alone because you don't have to run link bar lifters. Running with factory forged pistons is nice because you don't have to spend $400 or $500 on a set of forged pistons, and they'll fit on the windsor rod. And if your block already has a good bore, you're really saving a lot of money there because you don't have to buy pistons, which is $500. You don't have to buy rods, which is another $300. And all you really have to do is buy a crankshaft to make it all work. But again, you'll have some money in balancing, you'll have some money in clearancing, and also the last but not least, you'll have some money and time into clearancing the piston, which is one of our last things that we have to do to build. But nonetheless, this should be a pretty cool build. We did end up going with a larger main bearing, as we had to actually order these. These are +1s, as you can see right there, because we ended up checking bearing clearance and it ended up being like 1.5. So we wanted to make the crankshaft a little bit looser. So we decided we were going to go 2.5 on bearing clearance, so we didn't beat the crap out of our bearings in the motor. So we do plan on running a little bit of boost with this, so it's going to be kind of cool. We didn't buy anything really super expensive. We just bought some cheap, some cheap rings, some cheap rod bearings, which are standard size. Of course, with boost, you want to run, I'm going to be running head studs, and we have a set of Cometic gaskets that are a 4.0 bore, like we had showed earlier in the video. Anyways, we're going to get this all unloaded, get it on our engine stand. I wanted to basically make a video showing you and telling you that this is probably the most budget forged stroker that you can build. It's Junkyard. There are going to be some things as an issue that if you don't have the innate ability to take care of it, like clearancing your block, clearancing the pistons, pressing the old pistons on the rods. So we also did have an issue with the piston pins on the pistons, as the pin hole actually got a little distorted when we removed the old factory pistons from the 302 rod. We did have to hone those out a little bit. There's some things that are, if you have the time to build this will make it worth it. You're saving money on quite a bit of things here, but keep in mind, this is what this is all about. We're doing it budget. We're doing it. I've always wanted to build this engine. Stick around because the next video is going to be us setting this up and assembling it. So, all right, guys, that's pretty much all I got for you for this video. If you guys enjoy this sort of stuff, you enjoy the parts picking and the budget and this engine build, the 387, hit me up with a comment below. Give me a thumbs up on the way out. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. Check out that join button for membership, as club members have perks to the channel. But outside that, guys, I just appreciate you watching. We're going to go ahead and get this thing off the truck, and we're going to start getting ready to assemble it. See you guys soon in the next video.